Faisal Farah,
Here.
Heidi Gillis,
Here.
Donna Jensen,
Here.
Andrew Newsma,
Here.
Shelley Ward.
Here.
We've got absent Sarah Albrecht, Richard Payne, Joshua Walls, Godin, Patty Stockwell.
All right, we have a quorum. The clerk will, members of the public may attend in person or participate online at zoom.us/join, meeting ID 868-0201-9296. Once you log into the meeting, please use the chat feature to tell the moderator you wish to speak to an item. More information is available in the agenda packet and on the city's website. Now on to the agenda. The first item of the meeting tonight is adoption of the agenda. City Clerk, does staff have any changes to the agenda?
Nothing from staff, Chair.
I'd like to propose that we go through Title IX first. It's 6 pages, and then we could for sure be done with it. I think we'll be done with all 3 tonight. So I guess I'll make that formally a motion. Can I get a second?
Second.
Seconded by Donna. Any discussion? All right, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed?
Nay.
All right.
Second.
Democracy's great. All right. Second item, review of the minutes. Any changes to the minutes, city staff?
No.
Nothing from staff.
Anything from staff board members? All right. Can I have a motion to approve the minutes?
Motion to approve.
Moved by Donna. I'll second it.
I'll second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. All right. Item. So let's talk Title 9, traffic regulations, working through it. At this point, this is the final review. Do city attorneys or staff have any comments on Title 9?
None.
Okay. As is our practice, we'll just kind of look through it, and specifically, the yellow changes are really the ones that we need a final review on. So this would be marked page 170 of 178. And we see the definition change that prima facie evidence, except if a vehicle's been reported stolen or is later discovered to have been stolen around an abandoned vehicle. And then on the following page, no person shall park any vehicle upon any public property, avenue, street, or roadway in the city in such a manner as to interfere with city snow removal, maintenance of said streets and highways. And I think just those few clarifying words. And there is one final, oh, actually, now that I recall, I think from last time, there were a few comments from Shelley that we didn't specifically go through in Title IX because you weren't here. And I think it had to do with skateboarding. Maybe I'm misremembering that. Did you have any comments from last time that you'd like to?
From 2 months ago,
Bring up?
but I don't remember off the top of my head, no.
Okay.
I'm good.
All right. Okay, any other discussion on Title IX?
Really?
Otherwise, I will make a motion to accept Title IX as presented tonight.
Seconded.
All right, seconded by Vicky. If there's no other discussion, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor, please say aye. Raise your hand. Aye.
Aye.
It's unanimous. Motion carries. Okay, let's move on to Title VII. Title VII is not a final review. City attorney and staff have an update on Title VII, health and sanitation.
Me? Chair, members of the task force, as you recall, we approved a final approval of Title VII some months back. It went in front of the council, and they had some concerns about 2 particular sections. One was on the definition of junk vehicle, and generally the concern was, hey, sometimes people are working on their cars, and we want to have a better handle on what's a junk vehicle versus, hey, someone need to take some time to restore a vehicle. And so we tried to make some edits to allow for that. And so we created a definition of restorable vehicle, and then made it clear that a junk vehicle is not a restorable vehicle. Otherwise, the definition of junk vehicle comports with the definition in state statute, but modified by the idea that there's some vehicles that are in the process of active restoration, which should be allowed within the city of Burnsville. And then, so that is on pages, it's on agenda item 3, pages 10 of 178 and 12 of 178. For the main edits on that one, and then composting activities. And the concern then was that our definitions on composting activities sort of created a situation where just the very idea of composting was creating a public nuisance. And we want to support composting and not make it so that if some people are composting, it's somehow a public nuisance in and of itself. So we made some changes to that, highlighted in yellow, and trying to figure out what page those are on.
$76.
Yep, 76. So those changes, again, were to respond to council's concerns. So here in front of you tonight are just to approve those changes should they be acceptable, and then it will go back in front of council for final approval.
Shelley?
I have a question about the use of the word "and" in the definition. And
Which
the
page are you
reason
on?
is that a vehicle could meet all of the other criteria and not be 3 years old yet, and it would not be considered a junk vehicle by definition.
That's correct.
I think that's a problem. I think that definition still needs a little revision if we're trying to accomplish the city council's objectives.
So I would say that the city council, I think, was designed, their objectives were designed to give a little bit more leniency for people to, restore vehicles or have vehicles that aren't in perfect condition on their property or on their driveway. So what would you suggest?
I would suggest that the age isn't relevant and isn't needed.
Okay.
I would suggest striking it, unless there's a particular reason that was included. It seems rather arbitrary and
So to give a scenario, if I had a brand new car that was totaled, damaged, sitting on my driveway, and I had no efforts or desire to restore it, that would be a
Correct.
junk vehicle. Seems like that makes sense. Okay. Dan, would you like to add any?
No,
comment?
this
Okay.
is your committee, buddy.
Yeah.
wow.
All right. Well, we'll be back here next month talking Title VII. Yep.
I would like to ask about the word active in the definition for restorable vehicle. What exactly does active mean? And I wasn't here for that discussion, so I apologize if that's already been discussed.
So, Chair, members of the task force, the desire was, or the intent was to try to find a way to moderate between the idea that you don't want someone to have a total junk vehicle on their driveway with no intention of ever doing anything about it, because that might be unsightly to their neighbors, versus, hey, there's a lot of people who try to restore cars and try to eventually move them to operability. And so it's not the easiest thing. Some of that is going to be fact specific. It's going to be conversations when inspection staff, meets the property owner and tries to get an understanding of how long it's been sitting there, what's been going on. So the active, there is going to be a little subjectivity to it. There's no way around it, but the idea is to make sure that someone's actually trying to restore their vehicle versus just simply, I haven't taken it to the junkyard yet, kind of thing. Does that make sense?
So it's really an intent, rather than actively restoring it.
I don't know if intent or just, factual evidence that they're working on it, right?
So would that fall under the same line, like, for example, I know in my park where there's been an accident and the car is sitting in the driveway, which it's in our lease, but it's 3 weeks, 4 weeks for that adjuster to come out. So as long as we're aware that that's in process, then that's acceptable to extend that time frame for that, because it is an actual active, with it going to be repaired or whatever, but sometimes things take time. So I think they're just trying to cover that fact of it, that yes, it's active, but it may not look to the average person like anything's being done if you gotta wait for insurance or parts to come in or anything like that.
But I could see somebody who's had a car sitting in their driveway for years and like every weekend does something with it, right? Puts on a new headlight or, goes in and changes a knob. But I mean, I think that's where it's really subjective.
There's some subjectivity to it, and what I would say is, and I think from the council discussion, there's a desire to let people, have that opportunity to do that. And so, this is kind of the best definition that we were able to craft to sort of contemplate the area between this person's not gonna do anything at all, and it's unsightly, and it's a problem, to, hey, this is in restoration, and it's gonna move out, it's gonna look good, it's gonna be operable in the future.
Shelley?
I just wanted to mention, there are people who restore older vehicles, collectible vehicles even, and it can take months to get parts. So,
Sure.
I mean, I wouldn't want to limit the definition of active.
Yeah?
Jared, does this car have to be the property owner's car?
Not definitionally.
So I could restore cars for people in my driveway and that'd be fine?
Well, that would be a home occupation issue.
Okay,
Yeah.
checking. I'm always looking for where's that little loop that,
Yeah.
You starting a repair business?
no, wouldn't know how to do it. But I have people that do that.
Chris?
Jared, can you clarify this for me? Just, I don't know if others are looking at this the same way. Is that the junk vehicle definition has to meet all those items?
That's correct.
So to meet all those items, it's going to be pretty, yeah. We do run across this on occasion, more on occasions than you think, just to let you know that we do see this.
And it has to be specifically on their driveway. It can't be on any other part of the property aside from inside a covered shelter.
Yeah.
Okay.
So if they don't want to be forced to remove the vehicle or deal with it as a junk vehicle, they just have to register it
That
and
would,
have an active registration.
Mm-hmm.
yep. So what would it look like if the city comes and says, hey, I don't think this is actually active, and there'd be a conversation, that seems to be the way the city handles it. Ultimately, if they say, hey, it's active, would it go to like an arbitration, like a third party between the city and the person to work it out, or does it go actually to a judge to determine whether or not they're violating this civil procedure?
Well, I mean, if inspections, and Chris, you can certainly chime in if you want to, inspections gonna go out there, and if they find out that, there's been a complaint, they go out there and they inspect it, they find out that it's in active restoration, they're gonna say, well, it's an active restoration, doesn't meet the definition of junk vehicle in our code, and move on. There won't be, the code enforcement case will be closed, if you will.
Sure, but if they haven't done anything in 6 months, I'm fixing to get to it, I'm working on it, which is the extreme end. Who does it ultimately go before? If the city's like, no, you're really not working on it, is there a mediator that resolves it?
No, there's as we talked about before at the task force, there's all kinds of tools in the code enforcement toolbox. There's misdemeanor citations, there's civil enforcement, like a civil suit for injunctive relief from the court, there's administrative citations. So there's a host of things. The whole goal is to figure out whatever will help get compliance. And sometimes that's just talking to the property owner, figuring out a time frame that's reasonable to get them, to get whatever thing is fixed, whether it be a junk vehicle or anything else.
Sure.
Yeah, so it's a continuum.
And then finally, I'd say, as far as active, the way someone could prove that it's active would have to be with an action. Not they thought about it, but they did something, like maybe they bought a part, or they interfaced with the vehicle at some point. It wasn't just they sat in their living room and thought about how great it'd be to restore the vehicle, right? That's not active.
Well, maybe they're saving money for an expensive part.
It's all gonna be fact specific, but I think generally, of course, the idea isn't, it's wishful thinking, you know, there's gonna have to be some evidence that they're doing something to make sure that it goes from the state that it's in into an operable state.
Yeah, and chair members, we're also very careful about, when we talk to people about these things, we ask them, we talk to them, what are you doing? We do document that, we talk to them. And every one of these steps, and I know we always jump right to enforcement, we also have a really nice little mechanism called an appeal. So if somebody really feels that we're pressuring them, or I'm wrong, for example, they can appeal it. We can talk about it and get more information. Every one of these steps, they can talk about. By the time we get to the point where they're not doing anything, I'm pretty comfortable that we're moving in the right direction.
Shelley?
So I just want to verify, if I've got a valid current license plate, you wouldn't be bothering me?
No.
Because it's not, by definition, it's not a junk vehicle. Okay, I'm good. I know how to make you go away if I need to.
$50.
Okay. Any other discussion on this?
I don't think we
Faisal?
finished the
Yeah, I think-
discussion on whether or not to remove A.
Oh, you're right, I'm sorry. We'll come back to that. Faisal, go ahead.
Yeah, there's also, I work on cars for a living, and there's certain things that you can do in your driveway and things that you cannot do in your driveway. So if your vehicle, the front end is all busted open, you know, and crunched in, there's no way that you're gonna be working on that car in your driveway. You're gonna have to take it to a facility. So at that point, I think it could be, if it could be proven that you can't work on it on your driveway, then it's a junk vehicle. It needs to move.
Gotcha. That's a good point. So I would support deleting A, the 3-year or older. Any disagreement on that? All right, so let's strike A and continue through. I was curious, there are some other changes that are in yellow that aren't at page 76, like on 15. Well, I guess that 15 is a bad example because that's directly referring to junked. And I think it was like page 22. Page 22 talks about the number of trailers that can be there. Is this a new change, the yellow language?
Chair and members of the task force, it's really a restatement. As we were going through this, realized that this section lacks some clarity in terms for implementation. So there's nothing new here. It's just trying to make it written in a way that's more clear than I'm being right now.
Okay.
So, yeah.
A question I have, it says that at the bottom of that paragraph, paragraph 1 on page 22, it says, must be completely screened from view from public streets or adjacent property. The streets would imply at street level, in my opinion, but the property, is that at ground level? Or if I look out my second floor balcony and, you know, the fence is 5 feet high and I can see it, what do we mean by adjacent property? Is elevation a factor?
Yes, can be.
Okay.
The whole purpose here is just to make people have their property enjoyable. And when you've got the 25-foot camper trailer sitting back there with the privacy fence all around it, you can't really miss it. And especially if you're on elevation, like you say, from above. I think every one of those, we'd have to look at it on a case-by-case basis.
Would it be your expectation if someone has a tremendously, overwhelmingly short privacy fence and they're parking their 25-foot RV camper in the back, that they would not be allowed to do that? Is that what the city would typically do?
I think we'd probably still permit it if it's on approved surface.
Okay.
I mean, we gotta be realistic, you know, with how today's RVs are, people, and how they use their space. And I think that was kind of the intent of the code at the time.
Okay. Thank you. Any comments, Shelley? No?
None that are appropriate for a public meeting.
All right, an informal meeting without quorum in the parking lot afterwards. Okay, I think that just takes us to page 76 then, unless someone wants to call out another change, but I'm really not seeing anything else that jumps out at me.
Chair, I'd like a minute to just
Sure.
flip through and make sure.
While you do that, Jared, you made a comment earlier of, to Dan's point of if I'm running a business, can you help me understand, if I am restoring a vehicle, it's not mine, it's my friend's vehicle, and I'm gonna charge him some money for that. How many times do I do that before the city says, well, hey, you're running a business, you can't do that here?
Chair and members of the task force, it kind of goes back to this case-by-case basis. It's a fact-driven thing. And so I can't sit here today and tell you it's 2 times or 3 times or 5 times. It's gonna be, do you have kind of thing, do your friends come over one time, or it doesn't look like you're actually running a business? And it depends on what the code says, which we don't have that code in front of us tonight, so,
Okay,
yeah.
thanks for that clarification. Chris?
I can say that it's easier or harder to prove that that's what occurring. That's what actually going on. A lot of these home occupations and car repair are once in a while, some of them are daily occurrences too. We still have to prove it
Sure.
before we even get to, whether there's an active case or not that could be opened.
Is the home occupation, is that part of the zoning chapter?
Title 10.
Okay, gotcha, thank you. Did anyone find an issue we want to talk about before we get to page 76? No? Okay, so page 76, composting activities, as Jared mentioned, that first sentence has been stricken.
Jared, can you repeat why that was struck again? Sorry.
Oh, that's fine. Chair, members of the task force, it was stricken because the concern was that, when you're composting, there's some smells that oftentimes come with it. And so we didn't want to create a situation where it's just sort of the act of composting itself is considered a nuisance. So that's why, and we looked at it and we figured the easiest way to fix that was just to knock it out.
This is open to, I didn't want to go out of turn here. So as a property owner, the city has no desire to protect me from the nuisance of smells, unsightly, unsanitary things going on right next door in my neighbor's yard. Are there other ways that we can more responsibly restrict composting activities and not create a health nuisance without completely striking an entire sentence that might be helpful to a homeowner who is on an adjacent property?
Sure. So for one, what remains is A, activities of the site must not violate state or local laws, ordinances, rules, and regulations. So other pieces of the code would apply. Certainly, generally speaking, other nuisance provisions, the code might apply, provisions on, having bins airtight, not attracting rodents and pests and things. So if there was a situation where it was kind of a free-for-all in someone's yard with composting, there are other things that would apply. It's just sort of coupling it here in this provision of the code makes it, sort of read as if inherently composting is a nuisance, and that's not what we're trying to get at.
That makes sense. I understand that. Thank you.
All right. Any other discussion on Title VII? I'll move to accept Title VII as amended and send it back to council. All right. Any discussion?
Who seconded?
Donna did. All right, and noting that the amendment does include the deletion of A from junk cars. All those in favor say aye. Raise your hands. Aye. Motion carries. Unanimous.
Heidi, did you vote for that? You did.
Yes, yep.
I'm sorry, I missed your hand.
Okay, that takes us to Title VIII, Public Ways and Property. So I think we'll just kind of go through it page by page, reviewing the yellow. There were a couple of changes. I know the city brought back language around activities that you can do in the park from our instructions last time. So page 100 of 178. We've added information into the definition of right-of-way as to where that information can be found, the Dakota County GIS site. And on to page 103. There was a consensus to remove on the adjacent right-of-way. So that's been removed. The next change is on page 108, 109, and 112, and they kind of all go together. So the activities regulated on page 108 require a special event permit. So we're clarifying what type of permit. It's not just a permit, it is a special event permit. And then page 109 talks about a special event application. I'm being pedantic, but maybe this should say special event permit. Or is that clear enough just by saying special event application, that that's the same as the permit referred to on 109?
I agree that the permit should be added.
Okay. And I'll read the text. The city shall grant the application if the use will not interfere with the health, safety, welfare, and use of the park by the general public, and if the applicant meets all other conditions as may be contained in this permit. Such activities shall only be conducted in areas designated in the permit. The city manager or designee may require an indemnity bond in form of substance satisfactory to the city attorney, holding the city harmless from liability of any kind or character, and which bond shall protect the city in case of property damage. And then if we jump to specifically pages 112 and 113, you can see that group activity has been removed. So there's no longer a requirement that someone who wants to have a group of 25 friends and not use a loudspeaker, not sell food, not sell alcohol, not reserve a whole portion of the park, not set up a tent, they don't have to get a permit. They can just use the permit. And that leaves us back at, if you want to do anything that would require a permit, you of course have to get a permit. Any discussion on these three changes? Okay, so let's move on. someone finds a page number with yellow on it. Looks like 129 is the next set of changes. And we clarified the definition of bus bench, that it's privately owned and maintained on public right-of-way for the convenience and comfort of persons waiting for buses. And then clarified on page 134 that transit shelter is owned and maintained by local public transit provider. Again, for the comfort of persons waiting for buses. And then somewhere in here, we changed the numbers.
That's on 63, sure.
Thank you. Check these in between pages. All right, 163, the number of bus has been, let's see, yeah, just completely removed. Okay. Remove bus bench. Now, I actually do see an issue on page 163, because I think from our discussion, the tenor of our conversation was that we don't care how many bus benches are in the city, as long as they're appropriate bus benches and a transit shelter isn't trying to use it. But I do see on page 163, 7C is talking about the removed bus bench may be relocated as long as the bus bench numbers do not exceed 60, which, as I recall, we specifically removed last time. So that should be, I think it should say, if a transit shelter does not exist at a transit provider map bus stop location, bus bench providers may provide a bus bench. Transit shelters shall have priority over bus benches. The owners of bus benches must remove the bus bench from any facility where a transit provider wishes to construct a transit shelter, period. And then remove the last sentence, which is the removed bus bench may be relocated at a different mapped bus stop. Maybe we need that.
Yeah.
Period.
So
Take
just,
the last phrase
so,
out.
so long as the total number of bus benches does not exceed 60. So just that
Phrase.
last part,
Starting it so long.
yeah. And then on 165, we see the clarification on depiction or form, which might interfere with, mislead, or distract traffic. So that is our change. And then the revocation of license has been removed. It was redundant. Okay. That takes us to the end. Any final conversation on Title 8? All right, I move to adopt Title 8 as presented with our discussed changes, the deletion of the capping at 60 bus benches and the addition of special event permit application. Can I get a second?
Second.
Seconded by Donna. Any discussion? All right, all those in favor say aye, raise your hand. Aye. It's unanimous. Okay. So that takes us to the miscellaneous. So is there anything else that the city council is going to bring us? Or are we done?
Who knows?
Okay, so is the tentative yes, because the city council's gonna give us something to do?
It's up to the council.
I think the tentative is if 8 and 9 are reviewed by the council and then sent back, right? Yeah.
Yes. Yep.
Okay. And the other things that I thought were going to maybe come to us, there was discussion about playing cards. I remember that was in the pond items, and I thought the council was gonna send that back to us around
We
the value of playing cards.
Yep, we talked about the pond stuff. again, yeah,
Oh,
so we
okay.
talked about it twice.
Thank you. You
Yep.
have better
Yep.
memory than I do, Erica. And then I think the only other thing we had discussed, potentially discussing, was any potential marijuana sale regulation. Where is that at with the city?
The state still has to come up with the rules, and we don't have them yet, and so we're just as is until that happens.
And the as is no prohibition beyond
Right.
what's in.
Correct.
Okay. All right. So is it fair to say that with the exception of 8 and 9 possibly coming back to us, there is no other known task that this council would have for us?
Correct.
Okay. When will we know if we don't need to come back?
The day after the second meeting in October, whatever day is that, 18th?
18th, I think.
Yep.
Okay. Well, if this is our last meeting, then I just want to say thank you to all the city and staff and the community members and everyone who volunteered. It's been a real joy working with you. I take a lot of civic pride and personal pleasure in having worked with all of you over the last couple of years, and hope to see you in the future in Burnsville if this is our last time.
Well over 2 years.
Yes.
Yes, that
It's
was,
just kinda
and all of you that
glosses.
hung in there, that was amazing. I'm gonna just tell you that right now. That was, you guys did a lot of hard
Thank you.
work over the years. So I thank you for that as well.
All right. Well, if there's no further discussion, then the meeting is adjourned.